All right, and we're live with Harvard versus Cornell. Um, we are underway. This is week 4 in the Collegiate Chess League. And we have back-to-back matches today. After this match, we will see, I believe, Mizzou versus Yale in Division 1. But right now, we got Jimmy from Harvard versus Nice Cream from Cornell. Nice Cream, also known as Kimmy Liu. She is a streamer in the league. Unfortunately, not streaming today. But we got the games covered anyways. So, good to see. Kimmy, Woman FIDE Master, 21-30. Up against Jimmy, 720. Rated 2300. So, Kimmy a little underrated here. But always a good game when she plays. So, looks like both sides are fianchettoed on the king side. There's an open A file. Kimmy's decided to move her rook to the B file, perhaps looking to expand on the queen side with a move like B4, just kicking that knight out. So the knight will probably try to contest this piece, very strong piece of black's. Perhaps we'll see knight back to E2. That move could have been possible, a move earlier, but the knight was looking to go for the fork here. So Kimmy not immediately going for this B4 idea, instead lining the queen up opposite the king. So the king tucks away in the corner. You do not want to see potential discover double checks in the future. So now the king residing on the H file. So Kimmy not yet moving the C pawn, perhaps leaving this open for the future. This bishop right now blocked by the queen would like to be here opposite the queen. And the queen wants to be behind the bishop and potentially trade off for this bishop, which is a good piece for Kimmy. Good, strong defender of the king. This knight could come here as well, along with the queen. Could be a very strong attacker of the dark squares. So she does go through with C4, just opening this up. Wait, no. Have I been... I think I might have flipped the players' names. This is Kimmy with white. This is Jimmy. Kimmy versus Jimmy. Strong matchup to begin. Let me make sure I'm following all the players. Let's see. I'm following Jimmy and Marissa Day. There's also Chocolate Gummy from Harvard. I'm not sure if he started his game yet. Aaron Jacobson. I get him confused with, I believe it's Brandon Jacobson, a grandmaster. I don't think Aaron is a grandmaster. Not yet. Anyways, we're following Ella now. I don't know if Aaron has started his game. But anyways. Oh, I haven't even announced. Whoops. Let me do that too. All right, so they do trade off knights, and let's see, what did they take here? D3, and so now Kimmy's deciding how to take back. Do you take back with the pawn? Yes, reinforce your center. I like it. So now, yeah, develop the bishop with tempo on the queen. Does the queen move, or does a piece block? If so, how would you block? you probably don't want to trade off bishops, but that might be your best choice. Yeah. So Kimmy goes for the bishop trade. After bishop takes, either queen takes or knight takes. Both seem reasonable. Queen takes definitely supports the f5 pawn push the most. And Jimmy deciding, no, I don't want the bishop. I want the rook. And Kimmy's saying, well, you're going to have to go through my bishop first. So let's see. Did they go for a draw? Ooh, looks like, okay, I was going to say, Kimmy, the underrated player, was down for a draw, but Jimmy, realizing he's going to push for a win, saying, no, let's go. Game on. So black bringing the knight back, attacking this pawn. It is defended, but it puns the pawn to the rook. Instead, Kimmy develops the bishop with the tempo on the queen, similar to what white just did, and similar to what Kimmy did, Jimmy goes for the bishop trade here as well. So not wanting to move the queen, saying if I move my queen, I want to advance the queen into the center of the board. So Kimmy just maintains this tension, doesn't trade white away, doesn't want to invite this queen into the territory, so develops the rook to the open c file. Black might contest this, and they do exactly that. So rooks now are in tension, and I assume Kimmy will not trade, would rather have black take and help white out, but both A and C files completely open. Kimmy's got her rooks there. This rook is the worst of the four, probably. But anyways, black doubling down on this diagonal. So this bishop is now pinned. Well, I mean, it was pinned, but in some lines, the rook is needed to defend, perhaps, if this knight were to leave. I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. You're threatening rook takes, undermining the defense of the queen. But anyways, the bishops are traded, the queens are traded, the knights are developed. The rook steps up, looking to double. Black immediately questions this with b4, hitting that rook. Rook's going to have to find a new home. Do you go here? Do you go here? Or do you go all the way back? Those are really your three main options. If you go here, you might get hit again. But then you get access to c3 again, which would be nice because that's where Kimmy wants it right now. So she does go for this, c2. Does black play b3? Do they continue onward with their push, or do they find another plan? This pawn is also hanging, by the way. So probably you don't want to do that, helping white defend. Probably you're just going to take this. Jimmy's thinking about it. He pulls the trigger. Kimmy now, down material, doesn't want to trade rooks, attacks the knight. Knight comes home, mission accomplished. Looking at e4 now. New target. So how does Kimmy defend e4? She can push, and then she'd be left with an isolated e-pawn. Not too good. She could also go for the activity. Knight takes, rook takes, and now d6 is hit. And e4 is hit. So good counterplay from Kimmy. Getting a rook on the 7th, also known as a pig. I've also heard them called tractors. What's up, Kim Stud, Lantern, Fire Kid? Good to see you guys in the chat. Thank you for stopping by, supporting the channel, supporting me, and just hanging out, watching some good collegiate chess. So instead, not taking the pawn, saying my king is now defending the e7 pawn. Let me ask you again, what are you doing with e4? So Kimmy, hoping that they go down this line. Instead, still hanging e4, but now attacking e7 even more. What does black do? Black goes for the rook trade. But Kimmy gets the b pawn back. Now the material is even again. This knight hitting e4 once again. Black neutralizing Kimmy's pig on the 7th. Pinning the knight to the rook. Rook hits the knight. Knight hits the pawn. Rook here defends both. Very logical move. Now Jimmy under a minute. Ooh, we have our first result. Marissa Day goes down to Samai. Samai taking the first point of the day for Team Cornell, who takes the early lead. So now we have the rook lift, potentially supporting the knight in case of a d5 pawn break. Black's going to have to prepare that with e6, d5. Both sides now under a minute. Both sides bringing the king towards the action. Knight here. Now that the king is covering these 3 squares from the rook. No good entrance points from the rook. Now the knight is hitting this pawn. And remember, this rook has a job. He is defending this knight. So the rook has to stay within these 2 squares. So saving the pawn by pushing it, kicking the knight back. Now the knight is hitting this pawn. And this knight is also pinned to the pawn as well. So Jimmy with 46 seconds creating pressure on the queen side. Kimmy now in time pressure, brings the king in, gets hit with check, loses the pawn. And Jimmy once again finds himself up material as well as up on the clock. Kimmy now, 13 seconds. There is increment, so she does have time to gain back, but it's going to be tough to play in the time pressure, especially now that she's down a pawn and she's left with this isolated pawn. So her rook, or her king rather, trying to box out the rook. Here we go, trading down. Not sure if this is good. This rook perfectly placed now. The king found its way to the queen side when the pieces were there. She lost the pawn, and now the play is completely on the king side. This rook boxing this king out perfectly. Textbook. And yeah, she's got 2 pawns to 3. Black is pushing the majority, trying to make its way to a passed pawn. So Kimmy maintaining this. Not instigating the trade, but the king is going to have to force matters. This pawn's immune. The king cannot take this pawn. Kimmy could have moved her king with the discovery, winning the rook. But Black, seeing this, definitely not falling for it, brings the rook over. This is just game over, unfortunately, for Kimmy and Cornell. But good news for Jimmy. He's off to a good start. So Jimmy with the point, tying things up for Team Harvard. Let's look at this last game here. This started a little late, but it is underway. Chocolate Gummy, top board from Harvard, 2,700 versus Licking Camden Wiseman from Cornell. So also Ella lost her game to Nimrod. So Nimrod, top board from Cornell, gets a point. So Cornell has the lead, but Harvard's board 1 is playing right now against Cornell's bottom board. So Cornell's bottom board actually 2,200, about 100 rating points higher than Kimmy. But I assume Kimmy plays a lot of chess on stream, and therefore her rating will fluctuate a lot. Okay, I love this move. Knight e5. Hitting the bishop. Threatening a check. White just simply castles. Luckily, this bishop is still on c8. Otherwise, a rook would land there immediately, pinning the bishop to the queen. So Black will either take immediately before White has a chance to save the bishop, or develop the bishop with an even bigger threat, rook to c8. So White's going to have to deal with this. I assume bishop to b3. Maybe bishop e2. Ethan, that's a great question. If you're not a streamer and your rating fluctuates a lot, you should see your doctor. Specifically Dr. Landau, FIDE master, medical expert. Although he is also a streamer, so maybe he's not to be trusted. I'm not sure. Okay, h3 played, hitting this bishop that just developed. he just got there. He settled in, new home, very comfortable, and he's decided to stay. He's like, you know what? I worked too hard to get here. We're going rook c8 first, attacking the bishop, pawn push, defending the bishop. So does black double down on the c file, going all out? b5, probably not. That's just my guess. Probably not, because that looks like a free pawn, perhaps. Instead, this bishop might have to unfortunately relocate. The rent is too high. All of a sudden, she just moved in, unfortunately. I don't know why the bishop became a she, but she's struggling out there. She's going to go h5. No, she goes to d7. Man, what a fall from grace. But she's still got her high hopes. She's boxing out this knight, and she's also supporting b5. So, you know, no matter where you are on the board, there's always a way to be useful. And this bishop is a textbook example of that. Did I give? Yeah. Okay. 2-1 Cornell. I should probably remove the A from Cornell because Harvard doesn't have the A. Although both of these teams have, or both of these schools have multiple teams. I should also pull up the stream. Here, let's see. Oh, I should also pull up who's playing after this. That would be smart. Okay, so queen gets off the c file. Very smart. Don't want to be pinned by a rook no more. Attacking the a pawn. Black could win a pawn here, but lose a pawn here. So, what is the game plan for black? Do you go for the pawn and lose your pawn? Do you save your pawn by playing a move like this? Or is there something different? I would take this. I think it's about time. Pawn takes, and then you deal with the pawn or take the pawn. That is an isolated c pawn, by the way. A weaker pawn. No longer defended. So instead, a6, saying, don't take my pawn. I ain't taking your bishop. Not yet. My knight is too good and too happy. So look at the time. 36 seconds from Camden. Rook here is also a move. Pawn here is now a move. Well, you don't want to drop that, though. Anyways, knight steps back, hits the bishop. Bishop steps back. Chocolate gummy now, under a minute. White with the bishop pair. Black with the c file. Ooh. The queen is not hanging, so the rook is not pinned. So black is able to double on the c file, controlling it entirely. This knight guarding the second. No, we have at least 4 streams today. I don't think I'll do more than 4, though. Oh, whoa. Hello. Well, that was weird, to say the least. But in time pressure, weird things happen. Checkmate could happen. Black is smart, though. They're creating weaknesses on the light square. That was just a free knight. Bishop takes, hits the rook. Oh man. This is still immune. You cannot take this knight. Bishop here. Actually, no, never mind. Yeah, taking the knight would have been good. So saving the knight, trading here. You lose a pawn though, but you get access to the second after trading that. So now queen develops, rook takes, bishop takes, but now rook's going to come here. Big time. How do you stop that? I don't think you do. That is rough. You're going to lose a piece in the game and the king. May or may not be in that order. You could, okay, bishop back. That's actually a good move. But knight takes. Queen takes. No. Knight takes. You could probably win the game with with queen takes. But anyways, you do win a piece, and yeah, that piece is still there. So chocolate gummy gets the win. White missing that free knight. Chocolate gummy with a mistake, and Camden not able to punish. I'm assuming that knight was free. I don't know. Maybe I missed something, but that bishop back looked like an instinct, a reflex that was unnecessary. So let me update the score. That could have been a huge upset for Team Cornell with a 3-1 lead after the first, taking down the top board with their bottom board. Instead, everything's all tied up, 2-2, going into the second round. Let's look at round 2 here. We have a game underway, Sumai versus Ella Papanek from Harvard. Sumai getting his win in the first round. Ella still looking for points. It is still very early in the match. Only round 2. It was guarded by the rook on c5. Okay. Maybe you're right, but maybe white should have just taken it anyways. Although rook takes activates that piece towards the king, so I don't know. I thought it was a free I forgot about the rook left. Sometimes pieces defend laterally and you just miss it, you know. Anyways, queen, a file, bishop, hanging, king, castling. Who knows? No, developing a piece, getting it off the back rank, controlling a8. Queen could come here now, but probably not a good move. I'm just saying it's possible. The queen was guarding. The bishop here seems to be annoying. I would be annoyed by that. I would be like, really? I have to move my queen now? And white would be like, yeah. But you do give up a huge square on e3. Actually, these knights working really well on e3 could hop in at any moment, keeping white on their toes. Can I move the bishop? Do I need to protect this more? Anyways. So it seems like Cornell has the rating advantage on the bottom 3 boards. What is Nimrod's rating? I missed it. When he starts his next game, we'll see. The queen does go to a7. So knowing your options can help you find a move. Who knew? So I assume you just want a castle. I don't know. Look, black looks like they fianchettoed in the middle of the board, and they would rather have the rook on the h file opposite the king. Makes a lot of sense. I'm not gonna lie, but I can't help but think this rook would be a really good piece on a8, because the queen has committed to a7, but not a lot of prospects from there, unfortunately, for Sumai. But he's decided to go for it anyways. Not sure how his pieces are going to coordinate with this. Perhaps bishop here as a follow-up. That actually kind of looks juicy. However, and a big however, again, the queen is a little short on squares. I'm not going to lie. Nimrod is 2,500. Okay. So 2,500 for top board. Harvard with a 2,700 top board. But I thought he hung a piece. I'm not as good as 2,700, so who knows? But everyone makes mistakes. I tend to make more mistakes than everybody, though. So, you know, everything I say comes with a grain of salt. Ella, in the think tank here, do I stay or do I go? She's under a minute now. I mean, what is her plan? She's still deciding. I would consider queen here at some point, but obviously you don't want to give up the b8 check. I just think castling is just, it seems so natural. Like, she really, I don't know. Are you going to push the pawn? No. Are you going to expand? Like, white has this on lock. Are you going to play? Okay, king here. She compromises. I don't know how much this helps, though. Like, I don't know what it accomplishes. unfortunately. She really likes the rook on the h-file. I would castle, and you basically force the queen back, and you still have rook a8 with tempo. The queen would have to move twice there. You've castled. You brought your rook to the open a-file. You've kicked the queen back somewhere. And, like, she would probably have to go all the way back to a1, and she'd have to move somewhere over here. And there's no bishop here nonsense, which Samai might as well play right now. This rook is not going to a8 anytime soon. Instead, white wants to control e3 a little bit. Maybe he was thinking, I don't want to give up this bishop because this bishop would become a monster. So, anyways, she's going for g6 and king g7. But I think castling probably would have been like maybe a little bit faster. Maybe not. So what? 1, 2 to get the rook here. Yeah, maybe castling would have been more. I swear though. Okay. Anyways, I'm not gonna think about it. Both sides 30 seconds. Nimrod has started his game. He is 23-79. So, Cornell has a very close group of players. All within 200 rating points. Harvard, meanwhile, their fourth board, 2,076. Ella, and their top board, there's about 700. Ooh, this is a problem. Okay, going for the queen trade. I like it. I like that a lot. That is probably your only defense in that position, forcing the queens off the board. But white holding on to that bishop a5 idea for the right moment, and does so with the pen. Forces the queens off. Now the knight comes in, attacking d7. Ella decides that is unbearable. Gets the knight out of there. But now a second knight comes in, opens the diagonal. Bishops are off. How do you defend that? You don't. Will the knight take this? I think you do. And they do. Knight going in for activity, connecting the knights. This knight could be kicked with the pawn push. And it's kind of awkward to defend. Oh, knights now going with check. The knights are kind of tethered a little together. And basically once one of them moves, the other's going to hang, which is unfortunate. This pawn, though, is hanging. You could take that pawn less than 10 seconds. No, wait, what? Oh, whoa. Okay. The bishop was attacking the knight. So, like I said, it was kind of hard to defend all that. Now we've got 2 connected pass pawns for white. Samai should win this one. Yeah, he's going to continue 2-0. Ella is still looking for some points. Let's check out how Kimmy's doing against the top board. Kimmy, not streaming, perhaps doesn't want the world to see her games, but we're going to show them anyways. Maybe she didn't want us to show her against the top board, but then we'll miss out on her epic come from behind underdog win. So let's see what's going on. She is down a pawn, an e pawn to be precise, and her queenside pawns are split a little bit. She's hanging this pawn. And yeah, that'll come with tempo on her bishop. She's also down a lot on the clock. So yeah, things not looking as good as they could for Kimmy here. So wait, I gave the point to Ella. It's my bad. I meant to give it to Samai. So Cornell with the lead. We have 3 games underway in round 2. GM Benjamin Feingold. Hello. Good to see you. Let's hope they don't play f3. It's very tempting. Nice cream. 30 seconds on the clock. Chocolate gimme 2.5. So pawn advantage, 2-pawn advantage plus 2-minute advantage. Strong lead for Team White here. Let's see. What's the plan? Do you trade off rooks? Rook takes. How does black take back with the rook? This pawn's also very weak. Isolated. Alone. Still looking for purpose in life. Black just going for the only attack they have. F2. Yeah, Kimmy, no time. 15 seconds. White simply bringing the queen back for the defense. Black offering a bishop trade. But all trade of material favors white in this position, being up 2 pawns. I'm surprised the rooks have not traded yet and this pawn fallen, but queen now defending this. White simply trying to get the queens off, even at the doubling of the pawns on the f-file. So Kimmy ignores this, defending the knight. White could continue if they wanted to, trying to go for trades. But maybe you would see f5. This knight, maybe you could hop in. No, queen here. That's an interesting move. Maybe getting ready for f3. Oh, g5. Saying, where are you going with that queen? Kimmy, full send. Defended by the knight. So no time for f3. Oh, Jimmy and like get a draw on the board. So bottom board from Cornell, getting something up there. Jimmy, 1.5. So Cornell still with the 1-point lead. All right, going for queen trade again. Kimmy not going f5. I would have loved to have seen it. Okay, Kimmy now initiating the rook trade on the d file. Now that the rook is hit. So moving the rook over, lined up with the queen, potential sacrifice on f2. Does it even work? No, probably not. So white hitting the queen. Kimmy with the 6.9 seconds left. Very active queen though. Very active queen. Rook here potentially needed. Kimmy might be getting some points back, but you got to watch out. This knight is in some forking distance. Rook left. This is all very interesting. Yeah. White is hitting the knight because this pawn's going to hang. Do you sacrifice? Actually, that's just a free piece. Wait, but then they take here. No, they don't. Yeah, that looks like a free piece to me. That's what I would do. Chocolate Gummy's thinking about it, though. 14 seconds. Kimmy, only 3 seconds. Okay, the knight has been grabbed. Oh, there's a check and a trade. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, no. Oh, man. The trade didn't work. So, yeah, white was up the knight there. So, yeah, that was a good exchange sacrifice because it actually was just winning a piece because of the fork at the end. So, Chocolate Gummy, 2 for 2. Here we go. Nimrod versus Marissa Day, who is Jason. So, Harvard ties it up here down to this 4th game of the 2nd round before we go into halftime. All right, so what's going on here? Mercer to Jason, 17 seconds, 16, 15. Meanwhile, Nimrod, a minute and a half. Rooks on C and D file. I'm liking Black's position for sure. This bishop in search for new squares, pushing the pawn, attacking the centralized knight. Where does the knight go? Back to C7. Going to E6. Opening this up. So 10.5 seconds for Jason. Now bishop off the D file, centralized. I like this a lot. You're preventing the knight from coming to E6. This pawn is hit a lot. So now rook from the very beautiful and open D file, now relegated to defending a pawn on E5. White should take this file for themselves. It's so pretty. It's just begging for a rook to be on D1, and that's exactly what happens. Knight now rerouting, hitting the bishop, going for D4. Beautiful outpost for Black. Ooh, rook into D7, saying, how do you do? And Jason, no response, absolutely flabbergasted. Going to lose a pawn there. So Cornell taking the lead right back. Nimrod 2 for 2 on the day. Here we got Nice Cream versus Ella. Kimmy versus Ella. So these two players guaranteed to get some points at this game. Who's it going to be? They're both 0 for 2, but their hopes are up. Looking to change that. Ella with the white pieces launching the H-pawn. We've seen her do this before. Hello, Chess Lions. How are you? Kimmy saying, I ain't no afraid of no H-pawn. Castling kingside. Fearless. If I'm Ella, I'm playing G4. Oh, no. That's a free pawn with check. Knight here blocking the rook. I would take this immediately. But who knows? Maybe Ella's trying to bait Kimmy into opening that H file for her. She doesn't take the bait. She's saying, no, thank you. Leave the H file closed. But I don't know, man. I don't know. A pawn, like sometimes it's worth it. I'm just going to say that. I don't know. Would you have taken that pawn? With check, even. I don't know. Maybe like knight here. Anyways, the pawn has been saved. Bishop developed with tempo. Yeah, I think Ella wanted to block with the knight. Actually, because that defends the rook as well. Yeah. So Kimmy saying, how about I go for this check, pin your knight, but not take your pawn? That is Kimmy's proposal here. Does white comply? Or will they castle? Kimmy versus Ella. Round 3. Okay. So Ella, E3. There is a check to be given. Yeah, Ella not one to castle often, it seems. So Kimmy deciding, do I want to give check? I think it's worth checking out. No, kicks the bishop out. Bishop's going to retreat. Perhaps the knight will take. Yep. Knight takes, knight takes. Knight takes. Hello. How do you do? This pawn overworked. The queen is hit. I think you just have to take and let the queen come in. Kimmy with the shot. She's been practicing her tactics. Ella could actually, well, no, the queen is hit. I was thinking a little sneaky castle or rook d1, but no. There's a higher priority here. The queen must move or the pawn must take. These are your two options. Jake and Herman, hello. How's it going? All right, queen finds herself to d3. Knight comes back. Pawn successfully grabbed. Kimmy looking for her first points of the day. Perhaps she'll get it. Or perhaps I will jinx her. Who knows? Stay tuned to find out. Both sides under 2 minutes. Ella with a minute and a half. Brings her queen back to c2. Saying, yeah. I liked the queen here, but only for a move. But this queen now blocking white from castling. Kind of annoying. Maybe rook over, I don't know. But Kimmy did play f5. I don't know if the e-pawn will join in the party, but okay, it does. e5. Hitting the knight. Knight can't go here anymore because the queen now sees that square. So instead, develop with check. King steps up. Where does the knight go? Maybe to d3 hits the bishop. Ella now with a minute. A minute to come up with the plan. You got to move the knight. Not too many options. Well, actually, it's a decent amount of options. Oh, going here. Okay, that was like the one option I didn't highlight. But yes, strong central square blocking the d file. Perhaps now Ella's ready to castle. Long, but Kimmy now taking the knight on c3. How to take back. Pawn takes. Now an isolated c. That was like the one move I didn't want out of the 3 captures. I thought queen takes or knight takes. But anyways, now, yeah, this isn't looking good. The knight only defended by the bishop. The bishop is now hit by the knight. And if you retreat, the knight could take. You can't take with the pawn because you lose the knight. So then you'd have to take with the queen. But then bishop here with the pin. You could play c4 there. You could play c4. Ella with 10 seconds. She's not playing it. You gotta defend. Yeah, you gotta go back. Queen takes and c4. Oh, rook here, but now... Okay, hold up. This is like... What the heck? rook to d1. And she could have castled, actually, which is... Actually, maybe she moved the king sometime or something, and I missed it. But, yeah, Ella is not one to castle, apparently. So, getting the queen off the d-file, and now c4 is played. If you play here... Yeah, you're losing the c-pawn, unfortunately. So, Kimmy should take, I think. Kimmy is also up 20 seconds, but Kimmy only half a minute now. Takes with bishop, hits the queen. Queen moves aside. Still defending the knight, but now pinning the bishop to the queen. So, oh, but the bishop's also in a pin. The pin works, but wait. Okay, no, that's just black defending the bishop. I thought they were attacking the bishop, but I'm seeing things now. Anyways, the knight is kicked. Knight retreats to c2. Black is in a pretty good position. Now hits the queen. There's rook d2 check from Kimmy. She doesn't go for it. She tucks the bishop back. There's still that rook check. There it is. Now it hurts even more because it's with conjunction of the queen. Ella misses it. She moves her queen. She's trying to get in for the activity. Ooh, I like this move. Opening things up, defending this way. Getting the queen in with check. Takes with pawn. Pawn push. Bringing the bishop in now. Rook over. Ooh, kicking the queen out. Look at Kimmy using the full board. Check. Oh, that check would have been so good. Going after the pawn now. Queen defending. Queen attacking. Ooh, rook takes. And, yeah, you can go here too now. That is lights out. Oh, just checkmate. Kimmy, so strong. Taking down Harvard's bottom board. Expanding Cornell's lead. Looks like Camden beat Marissa Day as well. So now everyone from Cornell has gotten a win. Harvard down 3 points going into the fourth. Well, there are still 2 games left, so they're going to try to stop the bleeding. We got Chocolate Gummy here trying to lead the way for Harvard. In fact, look at the time. Less than 10 seconds to 240. This is looking good for Chocolate Gummy. I would go here. But no, wait. Oh, but that's okay. Rook over. Going for this, giving up this pawn. Do you take? I would take this. I'm just taking that. Yep. Black takes. You're not afraid of any checks. Okay, you might be afraid of this check now. Wait, whoa. Can you go here? Yeah. Just block the H file. Good defense. This was a tricky move. White now trying to open up this F file. Can you just like take that and then block? Rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes. Is that like a perpetual? That might be a perpetual. So queen check first. Maybe bishop here. I don't know. I think that's bad. Okay, pawn takes. Now the queen is over here though. So queen back hits the bishop. Could you just play here? Just defend everything. No, queen over instead. Okay, queen here. Or bishop here, probably. Probably is what you want to do. That's what I would do. But I am not Chocolate Gummy, so probably a lot of moves from black are really good here. Okay, bishop here is played. Probably rook lift and over. No, just getting the queens off. Even at the cost of a pawn. Pawn here is going to be a try. but going for the rook trade. Yeah, just winning the pawn. And Chocolate keeping it close. Here we got Nimrod versus Jimmy. So Chocolate Gummy, undefeated so far today. Can Jimmy win his game? He's up against the top board from Cornell, and it's not looking too good. Yeah, Nimrod just simplifying things. Black has this pawn to his name, but unfortunately, that's about it. White has a whole bishop advantage. So don't expect Jimmy to find something here, unfortunately for him. Yep, there goes the pawn. You got to save the rook. Yep, attack the bishop. King now defending this. Rook attacking that. You can give check. The check here as well works. Keep checking. Push the pawn. I feel like that's pretty simple. Some more checks from white. Yep. H3. Rook over. King in. Check. There'd be rook block. Looking for checks this way, maybe. So Jimmy playing on. Looking for his stalemate. Or draw or something. Hanging piece, I don't know. Ooh, rook here. King here. Rook check wins the pawn. Rook here. So what's the technique here? I'm confident Cornell will win this game. Jimmy's trying to be tricky, though. I like it. Trying to go for the stalemate. You always got to try. Trying to set something up. White needs to start pushing the pawns, I think. Okay, h4. Rook move. g4. No, check. This forces the rook off. This forces the rook off. You have to go h5 and then rook g5 with the trade. Ooh. Ooh. That's a mate right there. That's a pretty one with the pawn. So Nimrod also undefeated, adding up the lead for Cornell. Let's look at Camden versus Ella. Ella still looking for points. Harvard in a 3-point hole into the 4th round. They're going to have to win 3-1 here just to tie. Actually, they can't do 3-1 because then they lose that 1 point. They need a sweep to win. They need 3.5 out of 4 for a draw. So things are looking steep for Harvard. Let's look at Kimmy's game. Ooh, Kimmy, what happened? Let's look at this. Okay, Marissa Day grabbing here. So right here on passant, Kimmy must have forgotten it opened that bishop up. She takes with the bishop and b2 is hanging. But it's hanging for 2 moves. h3, and now bishop takes b2. The rook falls too. Actually, okay, knight comes in with attack on the bishop. That's just cruel. Also lands with the fork, so bishop steps back, only now taking. So what Kimmy does have going for her, despite being down in exchange and a pawn, is that white does not have a dark square bishop. If you're to remain optimistic about this position, Kimmy's bringing those knights. Oh, but she just lost. She grabbed the knight that should not have been grabbed, or a pawn with her knight. And yeah, Kimmy throws in the towel there on round 4. So, you know, Jason getting his first point of the day. Is it too little too late? It might just be. But, you know, don't count Harvard out just yet. You never know. There's 3 games left to be played in this 4th round. We have 2 of them underway. We're just waiting for the top boards. But Ella here, under a minute now. She's up against Cornell's 4th board. This is going to be her last game of the day, assuming they don't go to tiebreakers. But you never know. I do know Kim Stud 24. He was in the chat earlier as well. He's one of our players from Yale. All right, so Ella launching the H-pawn. I don't think Ella has castled in the last 3 games that I watched. It makes me want to go back to see her first game to see if she castled then. But anyways, her queen is hit by this rook, so her queen's going to have to find a new home. She goes back. She hits the pawn and this pawn. It's a fork of the pawns. Just a little fork. Nothing too serious. I don't see how you defend both. But if the e-pawn falls, white could potentially take the a-pawn. So perhaps white will hold on to their a-pawn and trade these pawns. Also looking for queen trade. So now Camden also thinking here, under a minute as well, decides to take the h-pawn. I don't know if I like that. I think that might have been what Ella's been hoping for. Ella can now take the e-pawn. Again, the a-pawn would hang, but Ella's got low time. Very low time. Okay, goes for the bishop attack on the rook. Rook goes here. I would attack it again. I'll go bishop d5. Maybe that's just me. That does give rook g4 though. Trades bishops. Queen takes. 10 seconds. Okay, now bishop d5. But now rook g4. Yep. Ella down a pawn, but down on the clock a lot as well. She grabs a pawn back. She's looking at c2, which would threaten rook takes h4, actually. Maybe not. Probably, though, but the rook is defended. So is the knight, but rook takes could distract both pieces. Anyways, knight in, looking for a check. Queen does take the pawn, so gotta keep this in mind. White has it defended for now. Check, another check, pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes, rook here. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Knight here, check now. Hi, Kimmy. Knight here, so queen takes, huge threat. Queen comes back, defending, also attacking. Will we see h3? Yes, we do. 2 seconds, 1 second. Ella, no time on a clock, but she's now up a pawn. But look at this king. Okay, kick the knight out. Knight could take here. Ooh, rook check. That is game over, and Cornell clinches the point. Let's look at the top boards. So is that Camden now? 2.5. Well done by the fourth board from Cornell, who actually had a decent position against Chocolate Gummy, but couldn't get it done against them. So that was his only loss. Other than that, 2.5. Really good for a fourth board. Anyways, these two players, both 3 for 3, undefeated, trying to go for the sweep, the 4-0 on the day. Chocolate Gummy down a pawn here, actually, but with the bishop pair. So, interesting position. This is also kind of a backwards pawn for now, but at some moment, Black can play e5. This is actually a similar structure, I think, to what Kimmy had in one of her games. But yeah, white to move. I would just bring like a rook out or something. Maybe like here. I would also consider a4. The knight's actually trying to come here. So that's kind of annoying. Because, yeah, if you go here, Black could just play here. And if you take, they take. Actually, no. Your queen's defended. So you would lose a piece that way. But you get the idea. This at some point will be annoying. So bishop does attack the queen. So the queen is hit. Yeah, if the bishop wasn't defending, then the knight check would come with a fork, which would be cool, but doesn't work. So the queen steps back on the f-file, probably looking to get these pawns rolling. Queen now pins the pawn to the king, so the pawn cannot move. Maybe just king tucked away in the corner. Three minutes for Nimrod. Nimrod, the leader for Cornell. Not only on the board, but also off the board. He helps organize everything for the team. So, team leader in more than one way. He is their board 1, and he's looking good here against Chocolate Gummy. Top board from Harvard. So you can't just move the king, I don't think, because then you lose this. I think you lose material. So the knight steps in, attacks the bishop. Maybe pawn here? Or bishop here, excuse me. But then you could go for this fork, right? Because queen takes, queen takes. So this pen's not too bad. It's not like you're losing material. So yeah, he does. He goes for it immediately. So you have to take, otherwise you lose this. Chocolate Gummy taking time here on what seems to me an only move. Yep, so takes. Maybe looking over the options. Doing a quick double check. So now the queen finds herself back on c3. Black has traded down their knight for the dark square bishop. Rook to the c-file. Kind of x-raying that bishop a little bit, because removing the defender will make this pawn very weak, and the queen can take potentially with a fork. But the rook is there, the queen is there. White does activate the rook, though. So rook on the 7th, very strong. This bishop might want to reroute. Black going with the f-pawn. Looking to play f3. White plays f3. Now e5. Opening the diagonal for the bishop. Also just defending the pawn. Queen here Forktown. Does Chocolate Gummy see it? My bet is they do see it. There's also queen check, bishop check. There's also just king h1. So no forks. No forks. What does Nimrod? Can Nimrod win this? What do you guys think? Is he gonna convert? He's up on the clock. How does Nimrod convert this one? Nimrod needs to address his bishop. Maybe he doesn't want to move the bishop because he doesn't want to lose the b pawn. Can't blame him, honestly. Who wants to lose a b pawn? So what do? Here, you get pinned. Not too pleasant. Maybe bishop f5. And then rook takes. I don't know. Maybe just queen b6 anyways. What's wrong with that? Probably a lot of things. Oh, maybe you block like that then. The psychological move. I mean, Nimrod, he was up on the clock. Now he's down on the clock. He's not down too bad, though. Oh, okay. Bishop e6, hitting this rook, or hitting the pawn with the rook. I actually like this move a lot. White calmly plays a4. I like that move a lot as well, just solidifying everything. Advancing the a pawn. So now this is a threat. I mean, would you just push? I don't know. White's gonna get. I think Chocolate Gummy is gonna do well here. Okay, so going for the rook trade, but White can now take the pawn back, and now we're in an even material game. But look at this a pawn. I mean, that's a pretty good pawn there, if I do say so myself. And look at it go. Man, they grow up so fast. I remember back when that pawn was hit by both the rook and the bishop. And now it's on a5. And it doesn't look like it's going to be ending. I mean, the rook is hit, but the rook now hits the queen and supports this a6 push even further. So, yeah, where to? The problem is maybe this. You also have to watch out for back rank. So, like, if you push, maybe queen here, it's kind of awkward for your rook because you can't go up. Rook over. I think you need a flight square at some point. Perhaps now. 25 seconds to 17. That's a free pawn. White pulls the trigger. Bishop takes. Rook takes with check. Queen takes. And you're going to have to block. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, okay. You would have to block here. How does that even work? But I don't know. I think the a-pawn is just too powerful. What a sequence. This was a game ender. Queen takes, bishop takes, rook takes, queen takes, resignation. Because you have to give up your rook. White would just be completely winning up the material there. So Chocolate Gummy gets the better of the tactics, despite being down upon at some point. But yeah, Nimrod pulled the trigger on that bishop capture, but ultimately tactics not working out for him. So 3 for 4, not bad for Nimrod, but flawless from Aaron Jacobson of Harvard, taking down every player from Cornell. But unfortunately, it's not enough because Cornell has the match clinched. So here, Jimmy versus Samai, just going for extra points. Looks like White is doing well with this pawn here. There's a check. So it looks like, is this like a draw? Yeah, so they forced a draw, but at the end, the score is 9-7. So well done from Cornell. Very close match. Harvard just missing out from a draw by one game. So yeah, Jimmy finishing the day 2 for 4. Samai at 2.5. So yeah, good match.